Today is Thursday, July 9th. Welcome to Big Book Daily. My name is Rob. I am an alcoholic. It is a thrill, honor, and joy to be here with you today as we journey through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. Today out of the Big Book, we are a little bit ahead of the game, so we're going to read the just maybe first paragraph or two of Bill's story, page 1, so we're actually in numbers now. And out of the 12 and 12, once again, we're a little bit ahead of the game, so we will just read the first couple paragraphs of page 22 based on step 1. And of course, we'll read Just for Today and Courage to Change. So with that, hope y'all are doing well this morning, my friends. Life is good over here. Woke up sober today, and, my brain, my feelings, right? Every now and then, they still try to play or replay stuff that I did years ago, or a year ago, or even a few months ago, or a week ago, But the beautiful thing is, we don't have to trust our thoughts. That old resentment and replay machine, we can cut that off. So I realized that, these are just passing thoughts, just a passing cloud. And all I need to do is fall back on my training. I'm trying today to live in this frame of 24 hours and work the program as best as I can. Practice these principles in all my affairs, right? And carry the message. And I've already asked for forgiveness for these things. I'm making direct or indirect amends. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Courage to change the things I can today on Thursday, July 9th, 2026. And the wisdom to know the difference. I don't know if I have any wisdom yet, but I'm honored to be here another day. So with that, let's go ahead and get to the good stuff. All right, my friends, so we are on chapter 1, page 1 here, Bill's story. We're finally in actual numbers here. And this is a powerful story, obviously, and he's one of the co-founders of AA. And it's kind of neat. So we get Bill's story as the beginning of the core text, and then right after the core text, we get Dr. Bob's nightmare. So we have the program framed between two powerful stories from the co-founders of AA. So we are going to read the first two paragraphs of chapter 1 of Bill's story, page 1. War fever ran high in the New England town to which we new young officers from Plattsburgh were assigned. And we were flattered when the first citizens took us to their homes, making us feel heroic. Here was love, applause, war, moments sublime with intervals hilarious. I was part of life at last, and in the midst of the excitement, I discovered liquor. I forgot the strong warnings and the prejudices of my people concerning drink. In time, we sailed for over there. I was very lonely and again turned to alcohol. We landed in England. I visited Winchester Cathedral. Much moved, I wandered outside, my attention caught by a doggerel on an old tombstone. Here lies a Hampshire grenadier, who caught his death drinking cold small beer. A good soldier is never forgot, whether he dieth by musket or by pot. Ominous warning, which I had failed to heed. Out of the 12 and 12 run, step 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. And we left off on a pretty powerful note. At first, the chapter begins with, well, who wants to actually admit defeat, right? But this chapter answers its own question. It says we perceive that only through utter defeat are we able to take our first steps toward liberation and strength. Our admissions of personal powerlessness finally turned out to be the firm bedrock upon which happy and purposeful lives may be built. So on the other side of admitting that we're powerless, we're not giving up, we're giving in to freedom and liberation by simply saying, I need help. Pretty powerful stuff. So we're going to expand on that on page 22. We'll read the first paragraph. When first challenged to admit defeat, most of us revolted. We had approached AA expecting to be taught self-confidence. Then we had been told that so far as alcohol is concerned, self-confidence was no good whatever. In fact, it was a total liability. Our sponsors declared that we were victims of a mental obsession so subtly powerful that no amount of human willpower could break it. There was, they said, no such thing as the personal conquest of this compulsion by the unaided will. Relentlessly deepening our dilemma, our sponsors pointed out our increasing sensitivity to alcohol, an allergy, they called it. The tyrant alcohol wielded a double-edged sword over us. First, we were smitten by an insane urge that condemned us to go on drinking. And then by an allergy of the body that ensured that we would ultimately destroy ourselves in the process. Few indeed were those who, so assailed, had ever won through in single-handed combat. It was a statistical fact that alcoholics almost never recovered on their own resources. And this had been true, apparently, ever since man had first crushed grapes. NA Gist for today, July 9th. We do recover. The time has come when that tired old lie, once an addict, always an addict, will no longer be tolerated by either society or the addict himself. We do recover. Basic text, page 89. From time to time, we hear speakers share that they don't really understand the spiritual principles yet. They tell us that if we knew what went on in their minds, we'd be amazed at how insane they still are. They tell us that the longer that they're clean, the less they know about anything. In the next breath, these same speakers tell us about the profound changes recovery has made in their lives. They have been moved from complete despair to unfailing hope, from uncontrollable drug use to total abstinence, from chronic unmanageability to responsibility through working the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous. Which story is true? Do we or don't we recover? We may think we demonstrate humility or gratitude by underplaying the change that recovery has brought to our lives. True, we do injustice to the program when we take credit for this miracle ourselves. But we do an equal injustice to ourselves and to those that we share with when we don't acknowledge this miracle's magnitude. We do recover. If we have trouble seeing the miracle of recovery, we'd better look again. Recovery is alive and at work at Narcotics Anonymous. In our old-timers, in the newcomers flooding our meetings, and most of all, in ourselves. All we have to do is open our eyes. Just for today, I will acknowledge the miracle of my recovery and be grateful that I have found it. Al-Anon's Courage to Change, July 9th. Life is a package deal. It is not enough to look only at the parts that we like. It is necessary to face the whole picture so that we can make realistic choices for ourselves and stop setting ourselves up for disappointment. Living with alcoholics, many of us coped with an ever-shifting situation in which our sense of reality changed from one minute to the next. We adapted by taking whatever part of reality suited us and ignored the rest. Again and again we were devastated because reality didn't go away just because it was ignored. Our lives will remain unmanageable as long as we pretend that only half of the truth is real. That is why sharing is such an important Al-Anon tool. When we share with other members about what is really going on, we cut through our denial and anchor ourselves in reality. While it may be difficult to face certain facts, when we allow ourselves to confront them, we cease to give our own denial the power to devastate us at every turn. Today's reminder: I can't cope with something unless I acknowledge its reality. When I am willing to look at the whole picture, I take the first step toward a more manageable life. If you have built castles in the air, your work need not be lost. That is where they should be. Now put foundations under them. Quote from Henry David Thoreau. All right, my friends, so that concludes today's reading. Some beautiful stuff. So real quick about the 12 and 12, page 22 of step 1. Man, this is a great explanation of the cycle, right? And I can totally relate to this. It says here, the tyrant alcohol wielded a double-edged sword over us. First, we were smitten by the insane urge that condemned us to go on drinking. That's the insanity, right? The mental obsession. All right, then finally we rationalize and make the decision to drink. Then the next line, and then by an allergy of the body that ensured that we would ultimately destroy ourselves in the process. So we got the mental obsession and the allergy again. And it just keeps going. This cycle just keeps perpetuating over and over again. And as it says a little bit above that, for me at least, I can totally relate to this. It says that no amount of human willpower could break it. Believe me, I tried. I tried for years to control it. I would obsess over trying to, drink like normal people. I would put all these stipulations on myself. I tried. And even when I started attending certain recovery services, I relapsed several times. But it wasn't until I realized I desperately need help. Tried to do it my own way and it's not working. I finally went to the fellowship of AA and started listening to people around me. And then eventually I would work the steps. And I think that's when a lot of the spiritual growth started to happen, because I was able to let things go that I didn't realize I was holding on to. And I didn't realize how fearful I was and just uncomfortable with myself in my own skin. For me, like, I would look in the mirror and I would just hate who I was. Or I would have, multiple moments like I just explained at the top of the show in the morning, where I'd replay stuff that I did years ago or 2 weeks ago. And I'm carrying it with me all the time. And I didn't want to feel that. So before, I would just want to drink to drown it all, right? And then cause more problems while drinking. It was, again, that cycle, right? But then when I went to the rooms and I eventually worked the program, and please don't do what I did. I waited too long to work the steps. I wish I had worked them sooner. But when I finally did, I was able to let all that stuff go. And the steps they're arranged in perfect order for me. First, I had to admit that I was powerless over alcohol, that my life was unmanageable. Then I came to believe that a power greater than me could restore me to sanity, because I looked around the fellowships and I saw all these miracles around me. I said, wow, it's working for them. I want what they have. Attraction rather than promotion, right? So yeah, I do think this could work. And then finally, I'll never forget taking step 3 with my sponsor in the church parking lot where I was at, because it was during COVID time and the doors were closed. I made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood Him. And I went, okay, God, I put my life in your hands. Your will be done. My will's not working. Help me to conform to your will. But I always loved the old saying, you got 3 frogs sitting on a log. One decides to jump off. How many frogs are left? All 3. One just made a decision to jump off. He hasn't done it yet. So that's where step 4 really helps. That's when, I started taking that inventory. All the resentments I had for people, who was I upset with, which I was at the top of the list. What was the cause? What was this affecting in me? Then finally, I talked this over with my sponsor, prayed about it. He pointed out some things that I had never noticed. But the bottom line is, by doing these things and then eventually making these amends to the people, whether direct or indirect, by doing the work, Step 12 has proven to be true, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. It was a miracle. And that leads right into the NA reading. My life is a miracle. But as I said a minute ago, it wasn't me. My willpower was not enough to stop. I desperately needed help. So I owe this miracle to, one, my higher power. 100% to my higher power. I firmly believe that my higher power is working in all the people in my life. And I had to surrender some things to my higher power. And two, I owe it to the people who took time to help me. Some are still here, some are not. But I owe a big chunk of my sobriety to them as well. And once again, I think my higher power worked through them. And then three, the program, the 12 steps, to where I don't have to hold on to this baggage anymore. I can change. I'm a miracle. But one thing I have noticed, and I don't think that the NA reading was suggesting this, I'm just saying it anyway. One thing I have noticed is, at least for me, recovery is like an escalator, and I'm trudging up a downward escalator. I have to keep trudging that road of happy destiny. I have to keep working it. Because if I think that I'm standing still, if I get complacent, I'm actually sliding back. Now, I have noticed that in my life. So yes, absolutely, I believe in the miracle of recovery. I do believe that I am a miracle. But I also believe that I have to do my part every single day. The maintenance of my spiritual condition is very important. And that's why I love doing this podcast. And I have rambled on for like 20 minutes. I need to hush. So I hope you all have a great day today, guys. Please know, as always, I don't speak on behalf of AA, NA, Al-Anon, any other sect or denomination. I'm just a joyful drunk in this lifeboat recovery. Honored to be here another day. And if we're given another set of 24 hours, I sincerely look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow.